Hi sweetie, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash the subscribe button, turn on the notification so you get notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all, and I want to say a very big thank you to every one of you for always coming back to watch my videos and subscribing. You all are super awesome. Thank you so much. So today we'll be talking about something that I saw, and I want to let you all know that this is might piss some people off, and it's actually like, you know, people debating a slavery debate, and what this person said is definitely going to piss a lot of people. Yeah, and a lot of people were stationed to this, a lot of people were tagging, a lot of people were doing this, and people think it is not funny, and it is not. Sincerely speaking, it is not funny. You know what? Stay close to the screen. Let me roll the clip. We'll come back to talk about it, and let me know all what you all think in the comment section. So straight up, let me roll the clip.
If we go back like a couple hundred years, it was pretty normal to own slaves. Is that right or correct?
Why are we talking about slavery?
Because I'm showing you why the ad populum fallacy is a logical fallacy.
Honestly, back then, a lot of Black people participated in the slave trade themselves, so...
Yeah, that doesn't make slavery right. Are you trying to defend slavery?
It was a product of the time, dude.
Are you trying to defend slavery?
Did you not see Matt Walsh's new video on this topic?
I did, and I think that defending slavery is cringe as
defending slavery, but I think we're illogical if we didn't realize that a lot of Black people enjoyed being slaves back when slavery was a thing.
Well, how do you know that Black people enjoyed being slaves?
I mean, it's just in history. I've read about a lot of Black people not only participated in capturing slaves, but a lot of Black people enjoyed being slaves. Because of course, when you're really? Brought up doing something like being a slave your whole life, it's all you know. I'm sure a lot of slaves probably enjoyed it and were happy because that's the only lifestyle they were aware of.
That's crazy.
Can you not think like that? Is it really that dense?
I have never heard of somebody enjoying having to work countless hours on a plantation, being dehumanized and whipped and told they're not human, and being beaten within an inch of their life, and being
saying that
I don't think that people enjoy that.
You can't deny the fact that there were probably slave owners that, just like there were really bad ones, there were probably slave owners that probably treated their slaves really nice too, right? You're not thinking logically. You're being so dense.
So I'm just going to say that in general, I think it's wrong to own humans.
Of course. We're not in that time period anymore.
But you're defending slavery.
I'm not defending it. I'm saying it was a product of the time.
You said that Black people enjoyed being slaves.
I think there were probably a good majority of Black people who back then were born and raised as slaves, probably because that's the only thing they knew. It was the environment they grew up in. If they had a slave owner who treated them well, they probably enjoyed their lives, a few of them. I think it's illogical to believe that every person who was a slave back then hated their life. I truly think that's illogical. I do.
I'm pretty sure that being owned is not a good thing.
Because you grew up in this generation and this is what you've been taught, and we know these things now.
No,
but back then,
not just because
those societal standards were not created yet.
Not just because I grew up in this generation, but because I can think logically and morally on this topic, and why it is unfair to own another human based off of their birth as having a certain skin color, for example. That's unfair.
I'm pretending
and
I'm saying it's okay to own slaves now, because that's not what I'm insinuating.
You are defending slavery.
I'm not defending it. I'm just giving you the facts. Aren't you all about facts over feelings?
Yeah, and I believe that slavery is immoral.
Right, and I do too. But the fact was, back then, I think you're illogical if you think that some of them didn't enjoy being slaves or enjoy their lives.
Why would anyone enjoy being a slave?
That's the environment you grew up in. That's all you've ever known. So if you grew up in that environment and you have a slave owner who treats you well, that's just all they know. So they probably were happy about it. They didn't know freedom. Why is it so hard for you to understand this?
What does a slave owner treating their slave well look like?
I mean, back then, I'm sure some of them, I'm pretty sure they fed them, right? Or probably that they weren't whipping anybody or not tormenting anyone. Just I don't have specific details for you.
Okay. As long as you're working inhumane hours on plantations, but you're being fed, then that's a good thing.
Again, I'm not saying slavery was a good thing. You're not going to try to make it seem like that's what I'm saying, because I don't know what you want me to say. If you want to believe that every person back then who was a slave hated their life, go for it.
I cannot just believe what I just watched. Somebody is thinking like this. Bombastic side eye. I really cannot believe this. Really, I am in shock. You know what? Let's get into the stitches and see what people are saying about this. Here we go.
I think we're illogical if we didn't realize that a lot of Black people enjoyed being slaves.
Forget about the adversarial trolls. She's obviously fishing for the controversy that will end up paying off for her in the future. But let's focus on her message and where it comes from and why it's dangerous. Have you ever heard about the Daughters of the Confederacy? Founded 128 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, they're still ongoing. Influential women on the south of the United States that managed to win where their husbands lost, which was in the shaping of the minds of the American South. Whitewashing the atrocities of the slave trade and its influence in the American economy, whitewashing the horrors of chattel slavery as somehow a fantasy in which genteel ladies with hooped skirts and broad-brimmed hats strewn with flowers somehow managed to own human beings and still consider them as family. This was in the textbooks of every single one of those adults that you see jeering at Black teenagers trying to go to integrated schools and that are now members of the Senate of the United States, as well as its Congress. But Elliot, that's in the past, you say. Now is it? Look at what's happening in Florida nowadays. Look at what's happening in the UK. Look at what's happening in France. People are trying to rewrite history books for a reason, because it works. Now let's deal with my favorite. I think we're being illogical. Always remember something about logic. Something can be syllogistically correct and wrong, both morally and in terms of factual truth. You can turn any stupid, vile argument into something logical. Slavery in itself had its heyday in the middle of the Age of Reason. So logic is not a measure for anything. It's an intellectual exercise that can be connected to reality or completely disconnected by it. Or it can be used to justify the unjustifiable, as it did with slavery. Oh, I almost forgot. Hello, Tiki. She also goes to say, a lot of Black people participated in the chattel slavery trade. Yes. Who's benefiting from it now? Is it any Black people? But further than that, despite of the fact that there's more genetic diversity in sub-Saharan Africa than there is in the whole of the rest of the world, when the Portuguese started the transatlantic slave trade with the help of the Catholic Church, they managed to summarize all of that genetic diversity into one skin color. So, from the perspective of the white people who were buying slaves, we were all the same. However, the people who were selling slaves viewed other Black people as different people. So they did horrifying things and sold them into slavery. Not because they were selling Black people, but because they were selling the other. And where are those kingdoms now? Were they all crushed by the slavers who turned colonizers and stripped them of every single asset that they had and continue stripping them of their assets now? And my question again is, who benefited in the long run from all of this?
A lot of Black people enjoyed being slaves back when slavery was a thing.
So, she said that out loud. What are you chatting shit about? And I'm not having a go at the person who made this video. I'm having a go at the girl with the trans flag talking about slavery as if it was a quite nice, jolly little jape for the slaves. Mate, you're pushing that rhetoric whilst defending trans because you're trans, but in the meanwhile, you're going to make trans people look like racists by putting that trans flag around while you're saying absolutely dire shite. Lady, look, my dear. Number one, we can never wholly know exactly what it feels like to be a slave, but we know damn well it wasn't enjoyable. Running the risk of being worked to death, or beaten, or lynched, or any of those things, yeah, that must have been so much fun. Lady, you're pushing back trans by mixing it with racism. We support all the oppressed, not just the ones you choose to support. It's all or nothing. And you're not helping the trans community by putting that flag up whilst you're talking in that way. Of course nobody enjoyed being a slave, you moron. You tried doing many, many houred days on next to no sustenance with the risk of getting injured, beaten, or killed if you didn't quite do it right. Or, you know, in some places, the slave labour was that replaceable that they'd kill you, your family, for your slow work. I'm looking at you, Belgium, for that one. But, it wasn't nice. It's never been nice. Slavery of all kinds is gross. And the level of violence and overworking that was done to these slaves, never mind the generational damage it's caused. And you want to go, yeah, but they enjoyed it, really. What? Do you enjoy being bullied for being trans?
Showing you why the ad populum fallacy is a logical fallacy.
Honestly, back then, a lot of Black people...
As somebody who grew up deep within discourse culture, I'm talking all the way back in 2005 on atheist YouTube, you know, as like a fucking middle schooler. This shit feels like a parody. This shit doesn't feel real. It feels like a fucking satire of the people who do this. But it's fucking real. Fucking Naomi fucking does this shit on a regular basis. That bitch is like the new Blair Whyte. But it's all unironic. This is real. They actually do this authentically. Why hasn't God killed us all? You can't look at that and tell me there's a God.
I think we're illogical if we didn't realize that a lot of Black people enjoyed being enslaved.
I'm going to need you all to take this moment to realize that people of color, and especially queer people of color, and especially Black queer people, have no obligation to instantly trust white queer people, okay? Clearly we can, and many of us do, put our whiteness and our privilege above our queerness. But let this be proof that trans people are exactly who they say they are. They are men, women, and non-binary people of trans experience. We are not some out-of-control woke liberal ideology, or else stuff like this would not come spewing out of some of our mouths. And just in case some of you have missed this point before, queer liberation is impossible without Black liberation. So start following and listening to Black creators.
All right, this is all we got for this. The stitches, I am like really disgusted. I won't lie to you about it, like, you know. And yeah, that is all we got. Thank you all so much for all the support. Let me know what you all think in the comment section, and see you all in my next video. Bye for now.